All right, everybody. It's PM Mashiach here. Uh, we're going to go over BB's or Mr. Netanyahu, PM of Israel's. Uh, we're going to go over his latest press briefing to see where he's at on winning the peace in Gaza, and I think that's how we have to term it from now on. You know, it's like winning the peace. Who's winning the peace? Is he winning the peace? Is Egypt winning the peace? Because Egypt's involved in this too. Even though they made this big old gas deal the other day. And they're not opening up that border for the Gazan people. They're still stuck in the south of Gaza. They're kind of bottlenecked at the border. Me, I'm all for blowing up the gates. I'm all for just blowing up the gates and getting the people out of there so he could win the peace and clear out Hamas without any further civilian casualties. War is war. I mean, we're human beings. We've been involved in war for now 6,000 years. I don't think we're going to learn our lesson anytime soon. I mean, maybe one day we'll all come to that winning the peace to where I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me. I'm as strong as you, you're as strong as me. I mean, but where does it come? Maybe it's all about AI next time. I don't know. I mean, here we go. We're in it's a whole new age, you know. So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and we'll I'll answer as we go along Netanyahu's press conference here, and let's see what he has to say. But I support the guy 100% right now. Somebody's got to win the peace. That's what this is about. And I think the winning the peace is you got to eliminate the enemy. Even Jesus said, "I did not come to bring I didn't come to bring an olive branch, but an arrow." So it is what it is. But let's do it. There we go.
We have the October 7th massacre, and to do so again and again and again. It openly professes its goal to destroy the state of Israel. It subjugates Gazans. It steals their food. It shoots them when they try to move.
He's talking about Hamas.
And I think it's instructive that now many Gazans are fighting back. They're begging us, they're begging the world.
And that's what we want. We want Gazans to rise up. That's what I think they should do. I mean, if the Gazans rise up, take care of Hamas, and then Gaza is Israel. That's just how you got to look at this. Gaza is now Israel. Bottom line, it does not belong to anybody else. Israel will bring a level of democracy after he wins the peace. But let's carry on.
Free us, and free Gaza from Hamas.
Everybody agrees.
No nation can accept a genocidal terrorist organization.
Yeah.
An organization committed to its annihilation, a stone's throw from its citizens. Our goal is not to occupy Gaza. Our goal is to free Gaza, free it from Hamas terrorists. The war can end tomorrow if Gaza, or rather if Hamas lays down its arms and releases all the remaining hostages.
I don't know how Hamas, in their humanitarian ways, can carry on like this. I mean, cannot lay down their arms. They'd be freeing all their people if they laid down their arms tomorrow. No doubt. Why they don't is unhumanitarian right now. Why they are still starving Israel hostages in the tunnels and showing it. I mean, what he's got to take them out. I mean, that's it. This bunch of bozos, they got to go. I mean, and I'm talking bozos as in John Wayne Gacy bozo, the clown. These guys are serial killers in a mass way.
Demilitarized. Israel will have overriding security responsibility. A security zone will be established on Gaza's border with Israel to prevent future terrorist incursions. A civilian administration will be established in Gaza that will seek to live in peace with Israel. That's our plan for the day after Hamas, and let me summarize it. 5 principles for concluding the war. 1, Hamas disarmed. 2,
I agree. Disarm Hamas.
all hostages freed.
I agree. Free them all.
3rd, Gaza demilitarized. 4,
I agree. Take away any and all military arms away from anybody in Gaza right now. Israel must have full control until the peace is totally in place.
4th, Israel has overriding security.
Israel has everything. Gaza becomes Israel. Bottom line, that's it. Over and done with. Gaza is Israel. They win the peace. They win the land. That's it. We're not going to have any little sliver in there ever again that's going to be able to go against the Israeli people like this again. It's their land. It's old Judea. We have to understand that, I mean, it is what it is. It's been conquered over and over again. Even the Crusaders. I have a grandfather, an ancestor, who was the fourth grand knight of the Templars, that had his head cut off in Gaza. It's been going on, but then they took control of Gaza. The Crusaders held Gaza. The Greeks held Gaza. The Egyptians held Gaza. It's the last sliver. Give it to Israel. Israel will control it. That's that. Forevermore. From here on out, Israel wins the peace. They have won Gaza. It is theirs. So says PM Mashiach.
Control. And 5, non-Israeli peaceful civilian administration. By that I mean a civilian administration that doesn't educate its children for terror, doesn't pay terrorists, and doesn't launch terrorist attacks against Israel. That's what we want to see in Gaza.
Yeah.
So it's neither Hamas nor the PA. That's our plan. Given Hamas's refusal to
and everybody must sit at the table of the Torah and figure it out.
Job and complete the defeat of Hamas. Now, we've done a great deal. We have about 70 to 75% of Gaza under Israeli control, military control. But we have 2 remaining strongholds, okay? These are Gaza City and the central camps in the Muasi. That's roughly, it's schematically presented here, but it's fairly accurate. Last Thursday, Israel's Security Cabinet, instructed the IDF to dismantle the 2 remaining Hamas strongholds in Gaza City and the central camps. Contrary to false claims, this is the best way to end the war and the best way to end it speedily. We will do so by...
I agree. 100%. I agree. This needs to be done speedily, quickly, efficiently, without delay. And I'm talking start within the next 2 minutes. I hope when he walked off this platform, he said, let it begin now. Done.
First, enabling the civilian population to safely leave the combat areas to designated safe zones. In these safe zones, they'll be given ample food, water, and medical care, as we've done before. And again, contrary to false claims, our policy throughout the war has been to prevent a humanitarian crisis, while Hamas's policy has been to create it. Since the beginning of the war, Israel has let in close to 2 million tons of aid. I know of no other army that has enabled such aid to go to the civilian population in enemy territory. Now, if we had a starvation...
They are being fed. We know that. There are people that are going hungry. There has been a lot of sickness in there. With this, unless you really have eyes to see and you know what's going on, it's just a bunch of propaganda being had. You don't know who to believe, you know, in a way. But I must believe in Israel on this. I must believe in Israel. I must believe that they are doing the right thing. They are winning the peace. Unless, if they weren't, I mean, if they really wanted to starve those people, and we're how long into the war now? What, a couple years going on? It would be total bones and skin everywhere. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing people getting fed. I mean, albeit it's not the most humanitarian way to feed somebody. I mean, the most humanitarian way to feed somebody is to have them go to a store and buy their food, and they go sit down and eat at a restaurant, or eat with their family in peace, and but not thinking that another bomb is going to drop on you. It is what it is, and so we got to get there, and that's but mass starvation, no. We see people that are hungry, and food that is being distributed at its own cause, say.
Policy. No one in Gaza would have survived after 2 years of war. But our policy has been the exact opposite.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We let in, as I said, almost 2 million tons of aid and sent millions of
Yes, I agree with that. Nobody would have survived it.
To get out of harm's way. Yet in the last few months, Hamas has violently looted the aid trucks meant to get to Palestinian civilians. They deliberately created a shortage of supply. And the UN consistently refused until recently.
And I've been under the same. I've been under the same thing. Is Hamas should not get a crumb. You can't give him a crumb. Yeah, he's probably wanting to feed them, and they're getting the food in one way to feed the hostages. There has to be some breakdown. I mean, what would you do? You're going to feed their whole army because you got 5 hostages that need to be fed? But they're not even feeding the hostages. They're showing starving pictures of them like they're their poster children, It's really a sad situation. And Hamas has brought into light who they really are from the get-go. I mean, if you have an ounce of sympathy for them, even an ounce of sympathy for him. I mean, go check your sympathy scale. I think it's broken.
To distribute the thousands of trucks that we led into Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing. So our problem is we've had tons of uncollected food rotting on the Gazan side of the border because the UN was and still is unwilling to deliver all of it. Here are the tons and tons and tons of humanitarian aid.
Now that's the UN. That's the United Nations. Now, like he's saying, the United Nations can go ahead and deliver this. Why aren't they? So why are we not putting as much pressure and as much angst against the UN? And listen up, UN. It's PM Mashiach here, man. You better distribute its food to the people. That's it. I mean, for crying out loud, where's your humanitarianism? Or let Israel make sure it's distributed to the people properly to where Hamas doesn't get a crumb. I mean, how could you feed another army? You can't. You can't. It just doesn't work. Not if you want to win the peace. You don't feed them. You don't keep the war going. It's just prolonging it. What's their purpose? You know what? Somebody once said to me, man, the UN is evil. And I don't know how the bottom line is they're very highly misdirected right now.
That Israel led in to the Gazan side of the Kerem Shalom crossing, just sitting there, because it's not distributed. So now we're going to go around this obstacle. We are going around it by doing three things. One, can I show this, please? Okay. Designating safe corridors for humanitarian aid distribution. No, that's showing the problem, not showing the solution. But here it is. First, designating rather safe corridors for aid distribution. You can drive trucks there and you'll be safe. Second, increasing the number of safe distribution points managed by the Gazan humanitarian foundations. And three, airdrops. That's airdrops done by the Israeli Air Force, and we're inviting others to join us. The result has been
the only thing that I think that needs any level of logistics on that, like high logistics, are the airdrops. Otherwise, it seems all pretty simple to me. So why it's not happening, I don't know. But it all seems like it would be a pretty simple thing, but the airdrops, because you got to make sure that the airdrops don't fall in the hands of Hamas. So that must all be, the airdrops all must be done by the way of the Israeli army or the Israeli Air Force. That's the only humanitarian way that the food is going to get to the humanitarian causes of the innocent people, not Hamas. Agree.
Humanitarian surge, which we're coordinating with President Trump and his team, and hundreds of trucks have gone in recent days. This is preventing hunger, but it's not prevented the global campaign of lies that we have all witnessed. So in Gaza, despite Hamas's obstacles, 2 million people are now getting access to humanitarian aid. But I'll tell you who isn't. The only ones that are being deliberately starved in Gaza are our hostages. This is a...
Now, look at this. Now, this is the organization of Hamas promoting... I just cannot understand the mindset of such an organization that has found itself on the ropes. Like, we need as much good publicity as we can have. And they send up a picture of a guy that looks like he's just coming out of Auschwitz in Germany. I mean, how stupid can you be? What is he they think they're doing, that they're going to rally around, the UN is now going to rally around this, or even the people that are Gazans. I don't understand it. I cannot wrap my head in this poor Hashem. May you find this man, free this man any way you can. At least bring him some food and comfort where he is at today. It breaks my heart to see anybody starving like this, but to promote it in such a way that, how does this help your cause? I just don't get it. Who does, right? All right, let's continue on.
Yatar David, look at his hand, at his arm. He's being deliberately starved by these Hamas monsters. And look at the Hamas captor. Look at the difference.
And look at what he's got in his hand here. I mean, he's saying, look at his hand, his arm. Look at what they gave him. They gave him a lollipop. I mean, who does this shit? They give him what looks like a lollipop. And then they're giving him a glass of milk or something. What nice people, huh? I mean, who does this? I mean, who's their propaganda minister with Hamas? A freaking lollipop. I don't get it. The Hamas's propaganda minister needs to be fired, like, absolutely, like, today. The Gazan people should look at this and say, okay, all right, enough is enough. The clowns, the Gacy clowns, gotta go, because that's what they are. They're just they're serial killers with an attitude.
He's eating, and he's eating well. The purpose of this news conference is to puncture the lies and spread the truth, but that distortion has been propelled around the earth, almost the way that the Jewish people were maligned in the Middle Ages. Every massacre of the Jewish people was preceded by...
All right, now, I wish Netanyahu would have went through these photos a little bit more, because he puts up their fake, okay? And for me, I see emaciation. I see starvation. I see people hungry. You know, it's these 4 children, and you know, they may have had some underlying health condition beforehand, but you know, no matter what you say, they do have features that do show starving. You know, I've seen people dying of cancer before, and they've looked like this. But the thing is, you know, something's going on to where, for some reason, they are not getting food, and it's not fake. I would say misdirected, or you know, something else. But I think he should have went a little further on what's going on with the children, these starving children of Gaza, and how we can help them, or how is there a way when they get this way that they could be airlifted out of there, airlifted in Egypt, open up the borders of Rafah, get them through. And that's another thing, you know, why aren't they opening up the borders of Rafah? And it's both on Egypt and Israel. They both have a gate there. They're both got them closed. So it might be one blaming the other, but they're both to blame. So for some reason, those people are meant to stay there. And that's that. Or those gates would have been blown up. Anyway, let's continue.
Massive vilification.
Poor children. And the same thing too. Hashem, may you cover those children with your goodness, and get those children out of Gaza that are starving or sick, or any person that needs immediate medical attention. They are human beings, just like me, just like you, just like everybody, and they deserve treatment. Absolutely.
To Christian societies, we were said to be poisoning the wells. We were said to slaughter Christian children for their blood. And as these lies spread around the globe, they were followed by horrific massacres, pogroms, displacements, finally culminating in the worst massacre of them all, the Holocaust. Today, the Jewish state is being maligned in a similar way. Everything that I told you could be verified easily, but it hasn't. And the international press has bought hook, line, and sinker Hamas statistics, Hamas claims, Hamas forgeries, and Hamas photographs. For example, these 3 children. The first one is Osama al-Raqub. He is in Italy getting treatment.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
He
See?
Has,
thank you, Mr. Netanyahu, for clearing this up.
Digestive system. It makes it hard to absorb nutrients and gain weight. Okay? So Israel facilitated...
All right, see, I didn't know that.
Osama's travel to Italy, where he got the medical aid that transformed his position. The second one is Abdul Qadir. He suffers from a genetic neurological disorder, spinal muscular atrophy, a degenerative condition that causes muscle wasting, weakness, and severe weight loss unrelated to nutrition. This was the real cause of his frail appearance, not starvation. In fact, he was treated in Israel in 2018. Doesn't help because it's a congenital disease and it defies most treatment at least. The third one is the most celebrated one. This is a New York Times cover photo. It's on the front page of Muhammad Zakaria Ayub and his mother. Muhammad Zakaria Ayub is suffering from a genetic illness which you're familiar with. It's called cerebral palsy. His mother is well fed and his brother is healthy.
My hat off to you, Mr. Netanyahu. My apologies from P. Mashiach, all the way from a P. Mashiach to a P. Mashiach, man. My apologies. I am sorry. I should have not jumped the gun on this. Thank you for clearing this up. Let us continue.
I'm looking right now into the possibility of a governmental suit against the New York Times because this is outrageous. Of course, the correction was postage size. I don't know where it was buried.
I didn't hear anything about it. I didn't hear anything about it. Propaganda, you know. I mean, what? And coming from the New York Times, coming from an American newspaper, my apologies on the American press, but you know, I've had to deal with them all my life. Is what it is. But anyway, my apologies, Mr. Netanyahu, if you're hearing this. I did not know that you had sent those children. That they got those children out of there. Let us move forward.
Outrageous. These are the three most celebrated photos, and they're all fake. It's the kind of malignant lies that were leveled at the Jewish people in the Middle Ages. We won't suffer. We won't allow it to go unchallenged, and this is the purpose of this press conference. I hope that you open your eyes to a simple fact. Hamas lies.
No.
Now you can ask me any question you want.
No.
Thank you.
Hell yeah, they do.
Could you give us, please, a timeline when you expect to conclude the new expansion of the new offensive? And if you can give us a few more details about how you're going to provide about this humanitarian surge and how GHF is going to be involved in this. Thank you.
Well, the timeline that we set for the action is fairly quickly. I mean, we want to, first of all, enable safe zones to be established, facilities to be brought to, so the civilian population in Gaza City can move out, as they moved out in Rafah, by the way. You remember in Rafah? There were 1.4 million people. People said they can't, they have nowhere to go and they're not going to move out. It took us, I think, about 8 days or 6 days to move them, and they all moved. There were practically no civilian casualties because they all left. And they went to the Moassi area that I showed you before on the map. We think we can achieve a similar result that safeguards the civilian population, at the same time enables us to go at the last stronghold, the most important stronghold of Hamas, which we haven't done so up to the war. I mean, we've been there, but we haven't taken it as a goal to dismantle the Hamas stronghold there. We do now. I don't want to talk about exact timetables, but we're talking in terms of a fairly short timetable, because we want to bring the war to an end. This is how we bring the war to an end. As far as the surge is concerned, we're talking to the U.S. about additional measures, but we haven't waited. Because what we're doing, as I said,
I like to more of it that we're gonna bring the peace, not bring the war to it, but you bring the peace. You got to bring that peace. You got to get rid of Hamas, and then you bring the peace.
is designate safe corridors, allow and expand the GHF distribution points, and they're trying to bring in more resources, hope to recruit some international organizations, maybe, God willing, the UN, if they ever decide to actually do something for the Palestinian people that doesn't go through Hamas. And third,
why the UN even takes Hamas into consideration on anything? On anything is just ludicrous. You know, it's evil. It's right now. It's evil. It is just beyond it. And for the UN to give any justification for the continuation of Hamas is just, well, it's ludicrous. You know, it's the UN. It's evil. The UN needs to step back and help Netanyahu in Israel bring the peace now.
Increase the airdrops. The airdrops are important, but they're not the most important thing. The most important thing is ground routes that bring aid, a surge of aid to the Palestinian population as far as we can without letting Hamas loot it.
Second question, Prime Minister, two questions. Firstly, why is Israel not allowing foreign journalists into Gaza to report independently? And secondly,
that's a good
President
question.
Trump has said there is real starvation in Gaza. Do you disagree?
Yeah, on the first question, in fact, we have decided, and I've ordered, directed the military to bring in foreign journalists, more foreign journalists, a lot. There's a problem of assuring security, but I think it can be done in a way that is responsible and careful to.
I used to write for this newspaper called City Beat. I'm going to tell you what, if I'm going to write Netanyahu, I'm going to see if he'll allow me to go in with paper and pen and write what I need to write. Maybe I'll report. See what happens. You never know. Although I want to be there on a time of peace, you know, when the crescent sun arises over Jerusalem, you know, the only way you're going to really know anything is you get a first-hand account. You got to see it.
Preserve your own safety. So the directive has been since, when is it? 2 days ago. From what you're telling me, it hasn't yet been implemented, but it should be. Should be, because I think you should see it. And one of the things you're going to see is precisely our efforts to bring in Gazans, to bring in rather food to Gaza. You'll see the trucks that have been entered Gaza and are still waiting to be distributed. You'll see Gazans who are fighting Hamas. You know, we haven't seen it since the beginning.
Bam! That's what I want to see. Now that's something. That's the story. That's the human element arising to the occasion. That would be awesome to see that. To see the Gazans rise up against Hamas. And then we all sit at the table of the Torah. Each and every one of us. Looking at where we must move forward. Let us carry on.
Beginning of the war. You know, and that's a reflection of the fact that they know that we're approaching the end stage. And these people are, risking their lives and their families, but they say we can't take it anymore, and they fight back.
Good.
And the other thing you'll see is physical destruction. And the physical destruction is not because Israel is destroying structures with people in there. That's not what's happening. Israel, in fact, is clearing the population, as in Rafah. But the Hamas terrorists who may stay in those areas booby-trap just about every single building. Not every single building, but a lot of them. And every road, and every street, and every junction, every intersection. So one of the things that we do is we place old APC, armored personnel carriers, with tons of explosives, and we detonate them, and they set off all the booby traps. That's why you see the destruction. And we do.
And you're going to need to do that just so not that the IDF doesn't get caught in the booby traps, but that innocent people don't get caught in the booby traps either. So Is what it is. Hamas brought this all in on themselves. Bottom line. It's the bottom line.
Similar things in the tunnels. The tunnels, these terror tunnels, we put TNT in them and we detonate that after people have left. But they're under buildings, so the buildings collapse. That's why you see destruction. You see destruction not because we go after civilian populated areas, but in fact areas that have been cleared of civilians and are still rife with terrorists. And that's how we've been able to reduce actually the
rife with terrorists and their booby traps that later on can kill or maim members of the IDF, the Israeli army, and Palestinian or Gazan. I don't even like to say Palestinian anymore. It's the Gazan people. There is no Palestine. It's gone. It's been gone for a long time.
Civilian casualties and increase, of course, the terrorist casualties. I very much appreciate President Trump's support through this entire seven-front war, his magnificent cooperation in the battle to stop the existential threat from Iran, his support throughout, and his support now. He says two things. He says all 20 hostages have to be released, and he says Hamas should not be there. And I think that he, like me.
You know what? I think we even got a few Americans still held hostage there that they don't talk about in their press. The American hostages were like let us not speak about them. When they should have been all over the news. And why the United States press did not cover our hostages in Gaza is beyond me.
He recognized the fact that there have been deprivations in Gaza caused by Hamas. Hamas has been the cause of that. And what we have to do is overcome it. So we're working together to overcome it.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Is Israel proceeding in the belief, in the understanding that it can and will recover all 20 hostages alive militarily? Or is it proceeding in the belief or understanding that conditions of their captivity, Hamas strategy, will make that impossible?
Look, my goal is to get all of the 20 out alive and also all the ones who are not alive. In the beginning of the war, we were told by a very senior commander, he said, look, we have to get used to the idea that we're not going to see even one of them alive. And I disagreed. I said, we'll get most and possibly all of them if we apply judiciously both military pressure and political, diplomatic pressure. So far, out of 255 hostages, we got 205 out, of which 148 are alive. 148.
You know what? That's a pretty good number, considering what happened. 100, half of them, more than half, have come out alive. Now, Israel should be highly, highly, highly applauded for that. I mean, that's a good number when you're getting them out of the hands of, the Gacy clowns. That's pretty good.
Alive. We have 20 living ones left in Hamas captivity and 30 who are not alive, as I said before. If we don't do anything, we're not going to get them out. The option of just doing a war of attrition from defensive positions has not proved itself, and I think it will just.
What Hamas is at now is at their time of martyrdom. They don't care about the hostages. They'll die with them, and that's sad. Hopefully, maybe one will have a glimmer of the right thing to do. Maybe one of them, and he'll get them out of there. Return them back to their families in Israel. My heart goes out for the people of Israel on that. And the American families that are waiting for the recovery or their loved ones that are still in the tunnels.
It won't get them.
Hamas, may you guide them to life again. Don't be mean. Don't be cruel. See in your own humanity that these are innocent people. And what you did, you should not have done. Repent and release them. In Hashem's name, absolutely. Amen.
Out, but I think it will draw us into a protracted conflict that doesn't bring the war to an end. The move that I'm talking about, I think, has the possibility of getting them out. We're talking about how to. I don't want to go into details, but how to get the remaining hostages alive as we close in on Hamas. And there are various ways that I think, creative ways that this can be done. But again, I won't go into that now.
Which is
Thank you, Prime
understood.
Minister. Two questions, please. You've just shown the horrific photo of Eviatar David, who's kept hostage in Gaza. We know that the hostages' days are numbered. So how will prolonging the war bring them home? And second question, you stated that Gaza would be passed to civilian governance that is not Hamas and not the Palestinian Authority. Can you specifically identify who this civilian governance would be? Do you have any concrete entities or individuals in mind? And is there a timeline for establishing this administration?
Yeah, well, I don't want to prolong the war. I want to end the war. And I think the other suggestions would have prolonged it. We may have gotten it.
You want to bring the peace. That's it. To finally bring the peace. A lasting peace that cannot be broken in Gaza ever again, which will include Gaza as Israel from here on out.
Maybe a dripping of hostages, even though Hamas showed no willingness to do that. And then they just go on and on and on, and we'd have this endless. Unless you are willing to just say, Israel, capitulate, go out. And even then, I don't think we'll get all the hostages. And if we capitulate, it means that Hamas will rearm, regroup, and carry out all the threats that it openly professes every day, by the way. Every day they say, we're going to do the October 7th massacre again and again, and we're going to destroy the state of Israel. You can't leave them there, So we're not going to do that. So my goal is not to prolong the war. My goal is to end the war, and I think that prolonging the war means that
bring the peace.
Starved to death. That's exactly the point.
Got to bring the peace.
As far as the specific partners for the civil governance of Hamas, we're actually, I think the 5 principles are generally widely accepted. And it's instructive that some of the Arab countries, quite a few of them actually, said that Hamas has to be disarmed. I think this is the starting point. And look at what is happening in Lebanon as a result of our action. The Lebanese government, the new Lebanese government, is talking about disarming Hezbollah. Who would have believed it? Well, some of us did. I did. And that's changing the Middle East, as I promised to do on the second day of the war.
That's a good thing.
I think in this case, if we succeed,
Israel must be able to live in peace.
Basically end the war by defeating Hamas, its remaining strongholds. There are several candidates. That we're talking about, several constructs. And it's a transitional period. It's a transitional authority. It's going to be there because we don't want to, contrary to what I said, we want a security belt, but right next to our border, but we don't want to stay in Gaza. That's not our purpose. At least not my purpose, and I openly state, including to those who disagree with me, and there are some who do. But I think that our goal is to make sure that Hamas isn't there, and that what replaces Hamas does not educate for terrorism, pay for terrorism, launch terrorism, but is willing to live in peace. There are candidates. I don't want to spoil the chances of succeeding here because I think they're real. but they're real providing we finish the job. See, no one's going to go in there if we don't finish the job. We can talk about the day after until eternity.
Totally
no one's going to
correct.
go in there unless we finish Hamas, and we're able to finish Hamas.
And you bring the peace.
And we will finish Hamas.
They will finish Hamas.
Yes,
They'll be done.
TV Germany. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. So the German
Gone
Chancellor has
forever.
once again defended his decision not to send weapons to Israel, which can be used in Gaza. He said a friendship can and must withstand that. From your perspective, what has changed in this relationship?
Look, I respect Friedrich Merz. I think he's been a good friend of Israel, but I think he's buckled under. He's buckled under the pressure of false TV reports, the pressure, internal pressure from various groups, and
He's buckled under the pressure of the UN propaganda. And he's best buckled under probably Russia, like tickling his funny bone, saying, hey, man, you keep on supporting this. We're going to cut off your gas supply lines.
I can say this, and I don't want to talk about him specifically, but I want to say this.
He knows he's in a
Look, maybe some
catch.
choose to forget October 7th. We will not forget what happened. And we will do whatever it takes to defend our country and defend our people, defend our future. We will win the war, with or without
Bring the peace.
support of others. But
Ending the
I
war
think
will
that,
bring the peace.
I think there's an issue here. And the issue is many leaders tell me, look, we know you're right, but we can't stand, in the face of the public opinion in our country, especially European leaders. They tell me that over and over again. And I say, that is your problem. It is not our problem. It is not our problem. In Munich, everybody celebrated Munich. Everybody celebrated the capitulation in Munich, the Munich Peace Conference, peace in our time. Okay? And everybody lambasted Churchill who opposed it. So what? The difference now is maybe they thought then that there was a real chance for peace by succumbing to the Nazis. But I don't believe anybody seriously thinks that now. And we're facing neo-Nazis. Chancellor Merz's predecessor.
I'm gonna say this again. Let me just be 1 second with y'all. Hold on. I'm gonna show you something. This is my father, who fought the Nazis in the 1940s. He's the one that gave me my Jewish blood. But he was the one that fought the Nazis in the 1940s. And he bombed the hell out of Germany. He bombed the hell out of them. And when it was coming to push to shove to the end of the war, what did they say? We're going to stop now? Nah, you go all the way to bring the peace. We've had, how many years of peace now with Germany? 80? 80 years of peace with Germany. Thank you, Paul C. Dean of the 100 Bomb Group. All right, let's continue on. That brought the peace in Germany. And Germany has not had to deal with the Nazi party since then. Could you imagine Germany today and the people in Germany today if they would have still had the Nazi party there? How miserable they'd be. Give me a break. Yeah, go high step that one over to Merkel, will you?
Was here, okay? And on the first or second day of the war, he was there, on the first days of the war. And he said to me, they're exactly like the Nazis. And they are. Now, we're not going to leave.
I think they're dumber than the Nazis. More stupid.
The remainder of the Nazi army, in the equivalent of Berlin. Don't go into Berlin and don't finish off the Nazi army, the German army. Of course not. I mean, that's what people are telling us to do. And I'm not going to do it. And the Israeli people are not going to do it. We're going to do it. And we have enough criticism within, but the majority of the people if you really check it, the majority of the people say that's a result we can't afford if we want to live here.
That's
So
it.
we're going to do what we
The
need to
majority
do.
of the people, I think, is
And I hope
90%
that,
right now.
Chancellor Merz changes his policy. And you know when he'll change his policy, for sure? When we win.
When they bring the peace. The war's already won. It's just,
Thank you, Prime Minister.
This
you
is
talked about
over.
the seven-front battle. There's an eighth front, the propaganda war, the information war. Is Israel winning or losing this war? And also, have you spoken with President Trump since the Security Cabinet approved this plan? If so, can you share some of the details of that conversation? If not, do you plan on speaking with him at some point soon? And is he planning to also come to Israel at some point?
Well, I suggest you ask him that. But I haven't spoken to him since next Thursday. Yes, I intend to speak to him very soon. You asked about, sorry, could you repeat the first part of your question?
The first part was about the propaganda.
Oh, the propaganda? Well, look, no, I think that we've not been winning it, to put it mildly. I think there are vast forces that are arrayed against us. Among other things, the algorithms of the social network that are driving a lot of everything else, you know, and people who really know, and they're the foremost people in this field in the world, they're telling me that about 60% of the responses on the social media are bots. They can categorically say they're bots. And they're bots that, you know, especially in America, they want to attack the support that Israel has from the Republican side. So they describe how, you know, themselves as homespun Southerners, except they're riding from Asia somewhere, you know. That's a big issue. We have to contend with it. And we also have to stand up and tell the truth. Probably a greater frequency than we're doing now. That's exactly what I'm trying to do now. But again, if you want to win this war, end it speedily.
End it speedily.
End it speedily. Expose the lies as much as you can.
End it speedily.
And that's how you win the war. You win the war, the propaganda
That's
war,
it.
by
Get this
winning
over
the war
with.
and winning the peace. That's the simplest way to do it. And it's about time to do that.
Yes, it is.
News, UK.
Last question.
Last question.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Given what the IPC says is the unfolding spectre of famine in the Gaza Strip, would you accept that your 11-week blockade, complete blockade on Gaza, played a role in that? And also, given the killings that we have seen at the GHF aid sites, how will you guarantee that that kind of disaster will not happen when you have 1 million more people displaced? Thank you.
Well, number one, the problem that we had was trying to stop Hamas looting. There's no question there was Hamas looting. Everybody saw it. You could see it. Hamas terrorists taking over trucks and so on. We tried to do two things simultaneously. Stop the trucks and bring in the trucks through the GHF distribution points. Okay. It wasn't successful. And it wasn't successful, among other things, because Hamas interdicted also the GHF program, the distribution point. So Hamas created this problem.
I hope everybody's listening.
It was directed against us immediately.
Hamas needs to go.
Policy, which is completely false.
Bam! Done.
Anymore
There
than we
is
have
no
the
more
genocide
Hamas.
policy, which is equally false.
Everybody, the
We don't.
smoke clears.
Not this,
We'll
not
see
that.
where we're at. The
I
peace
don't know
will
of a
be
country
here.
that texts millions of messages to civilians to get out of harm's way, giving up the element of surprise, or calling them individually on cell phones. Yet Israel is accused of genocide. It's absurd. Or starvation policy. But there was a problem of deprivation. No question about it. And so we had to solve it. And the way we solve it is the way I described it to you. And there are now not zero trucks, but at least in, I think last time I checked, hundreds of trucks that went into Gaza. That's alleviating the situation. Now we want to increase the number of distribution sites. So there's not, basically you answer this problem, or you solve this problem by the law of supply and demand. If you have a lot of supply, if you flood Gaza with food, which some of it will be pilfered, there's no way to get around that, will be looted by Hamas, but you'll have, if enough food reaches the market.
See? He's more humanitarian than I am. I say don't let Hamas get a crumb. Not a crumb.
Marketplace, so to speak, then you'll see a difference. And you know what the difference is? How do we know for sure there's a difference? Because we monitor, as any one of you could, the price of food in Gaza. It's plummeted. It's plummeted ever since that we decided to take to do the humanitarian surge, and it'll plummet more if other countries join us. So I called on other countries to join in the airdrops. I actually called them to help persuade the UN to move those trucks, because every truck that goes in brings down the price of food. That's what happens. And when you have no shortage like that, then you don't have also the crowding around distribution points. And by the way, a lot of the firing was done by Hamas, seeking to have response by our forces, and very often they didn't. They held back. They stayed their fire, even though their own lives were on the line. Yeah.
We're done. Thank you, Prime Minister.
We're done? Well, I couldn't resist that one. Who? Oh, okay.
We've seen countries such as the UK, Canada, France say that they will support Palestinian statehood in the next short while. You've described that as a reward for...
There should be no Palestinian statehood. Zero. None. There was never a Palestine. There shall never be a Palestine. It is Israel. Israel will hold the peace. Israel will make the peace happen. We shall all sit at the table of the Torah and carry on from here the right and the wrong ways to proceed. There is no two-state solution. It is dead with Hamas.
Here. Other countries like Australia are also walking down this path, not quite there yet. How much of this is a reward for Hamas, and how much of it is actually countries like those who have repeatedly said Israel does have a right to defend itself, but are now struggling to stomach what they're seeing you and your military doing in Gaza?
Well, first of all, those who say that Israel has a right to defend itself are also saying, but don't exercise that right. When we do what any country would do faced with this genocidal terrorist organization that has performed the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust, I think we're actually applying force judiciously, and they know it. They know what they would do if right next to Melbourne or right next to Sydney you had this horrific attacks. I think you would do it, at least what we're doing.
Who would it?
Probably,
what country wouldn't have?
Not as efficiently and as precision.
You're going to wipe out the other. You're going to wipe out the enemy. That's how we work as human beings. We've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. We've become very efficient at it.
Is Palestinian state. Well, the assumption, the prevailing assumption in this, is that the problem that we have with the Palestinians is the absence of a Palestinian state. And if they were given a Palestinian state, they would stop the efforts to destroy the Jewish state. But the Palestinians were offered a state many times, including in the partition resolution, and they turned it down. They were offered statehood by my predecessors with lavish concessions. They turned it down. Because the Palestinians are not about creating a state, they're about destroying a state. That's why they opposed the Jewish national movement to create a state called Zionism. They opposed it before the inception of the Jewish state, and they've opposed it since. They've opposed it when they had the Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, and Gaza in their hold. They didn't say, let's create a state there. They didn't say that. Because again, their goal is the destruction of a state. It defies imagination or understanding how intelligent people around the world, okay, including seasoned diplomats, government leaders, and respected journalists, fall for this absurdity. It's so easy to verify, you know. And look at the PA, okay? Look at the Palestinian National...
It would be like, you know, as it was stated earlier, you got the Nazis on the ropes, and you say, let's have the Nazis have their own state. It ain't going to work. Just doesn't work.
The movement today is divided, okay? Divided between two forces, okay? The Palestinian Authority in Judea and Samaria, and Hamas in Gaza. Okay, Hamas in Gaza had a de facto state. It had a state, and it used it to launch a war of terror against Israel because their doctrine is that the destruction of Israel should proceed with forceful and direct military and terrorist moves. That's what they did on October 7th. And that's what they'll do again if we don't destroy them. The Palestinian Authority, on the other hand, says no. First, Israel has to be reduced to indefensible boundaries. You've got to get them out with the ICC, with the UN, with the Security Council resolutions, drive them to indefensible boundaries, and then deliver the blow. Because Israel is too strong in its present configuration. These discussions are open. They're held. Anybody, you don't need Israeli intel for it. Believe it. Okay? You can just scour the web. You'll find it. Okay? So they have no difference about the goal. That's why the Palestinian children in Judea and Samaria, and the Palestinian children, that is the Palestinian children under the PA and the Palestinian children under Hamas, are educated with exactly the same textbooks. That's why the PA calls its public squares against mass killers of Jews. That's why they have pay for slay. The more Jews you murder, the more you get paid. Or your family gets paid. I mean, so that's the crux of the problem. The real reason that this conflict persists is not because of the absence of a Palestinian state, but the persistent Palestinian refusal to recognize a Jewish state in any boundary. Okay? Now, when you give them a Palestinian state, when they haven't abandoned the goal of destroying the Jewish state, all you're doing is you're bringing the next war closer. Again, Hamas had a state. You just brought the war closer. And if you did the same thing in Judea and Samaria, right above Tel Aviv, enveloping Jerusalem, some say cutting Jerusalem into two, that's all that's going to happen. You're going to have the radicals again take it over, Iran take it over, and start a state from improved boundaries, start a war with improved boundaries. That's not going to happen. I think the solution to this problem is that the Palestinians should have all the powers to govern themselves in the places where they live and none of the powers to threaten Israel. They should obviously reform their whole educational system.
They should have freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of speech, and be under Israel. That's that. That's that. Not too hard to figure out. There never was a Palestine, and there never shall be. Israel, Gaza is Israel. And now they must sit at the table of the Torah.
They should reform their whole historical outlook and say, all right, we accept that Israel is here to stay, not as a fact, as a physical or geographic fact, but as a fact of historical equity. If they want to live here next to us, they have to stop
within us.
Our destruction.
It must be within
an independent state with all the
at the table of the Torah
to invite a future war and a certain war. And that's something that today the Israeli public forcefully opposes. Before the war, by the way, it was about, two-thirds in the overall population. Probably 60-40, or even more, against in the Jewish population. But now it's changed more dramatically. I mean, we had a vote in the Knesset a few months ago about the possibility of, having a Palestinian state. And the result was 99-9. 99-9. That covers a very broad spectrum. And today, most of the Jewish public is against the Palestinian state for the simple reason that they know it won't bring peace, it'll bring war. To have
it's just going to be more of the same old bullshit.
Australia march into that rabbit hole, just like that, fall right into it, and buy this canard is disappointing, and I think it's actually shameful, but it's not going to change our position. Again, we will not commit national suicide to get a good op-ed for 2 minutes. They won't do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And with that, this PM Mashiach gives that PM Mashiach 100% support to now finalize this battle and bring the peace. Peace be with you, Mr. Netanyahu. I wish you all the best. I wish you well in elimination of these gacy clowns that have brought so much tension, murder into the world. May Hamas be destroyed. May Hashem guide your way in bringing the peace. May peace be with you. Amen. And absolutely.